Welcome to episode 6 of Happy Hour Live. Thank you so much for being here with me and or watching later if you're doing that. Thank you so much. For those of you that need a reminder, today is Friday, April 24th. I'm pretty sure I do my show on every Friday, so I'm pretty sure it's Friday. Sometimes I need a reminder. I completely forget. The weather's been crazy in LA. Last year it was raining, just downpour. We had the heater blasting. It was cold for us, 50 degrees, whatever. Freezing for Californians. But today I go out to my car. The thermometer reads 101 degrees. It is such a yo-yo, and it is not comfortable for the body. But so just more reason to stay inside and just chill. Crank the AC if you have it. Relax with a beer. It's Friday. It's 5. It's happy hour. There's a video being released soon by my friend Matt Howard, principal percussionist of the LA Phil. I am in it. The percussion section's in it, and a couple of the other guys who frequently play. I can't say any more than that, other than just keep an eye out on Matt's profile, and that Matt absolutely shreds. And I think you're gonna really love this video. Also, make sure to like and comment and share. I have this really cool interface that I'm using, but it only shows a number of the people that are watching. I don't know who you are unless you comment. Then I can see your name, and I can give you a shout out, say what's up. Even if it's something as simple as a waving hand emoji, would really appreciate it. If you have a question, a comment, please add that too. We'll get to that at some point in the interview and the discussion today. But yeah, interaction. We love interaction. Go for it. Like, comment, share. Matt Richards, what's up, dude? Dave Gerhardt, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. This is going to be great. My guest today is the former resident percussion fellow of the Detroit Symphony, the former resident percussion fellow of the Pittsburgh Symphony, the principal percussionist of the Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra, and then about a week before the entire country went on lockdown, he won the principal percussion audition for the Kansas City Symphony. He is a performer, a teacher, audition slayer, cancer survivor, and most recently author of the percussion technique book, Spacial Studies for Hitting Things. It is my absolute pleasure to bring you Josh Jones, the inimitable Josh Jones. Josh, welcome.
Hello.
Welcome. Hey, thank you so much for being here, man. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited to talk to you. I saw you a few days ago on Ted Atkatz, Ted Atkatz percussion seminar, and I was just the whole time just like, wow, this guy is such a wealth of knowledge. He's so insightful. He's you're more than just like a technique robot. You're into the mind-body connection, and that really resonated with me. How are you, man? How you doing?
Oh, I'm pretty tired. I've been working a lot, but it's very rewarding work. So
Yeah.
good.
Nice. And quarantine treating you well? You staying sane, trying to?
I'm trying. Well, I'm just trying to stay busy and not just stay in bed and play Pokemon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you might never have that opportunity to do that ever again as much as we do now. So, you've accomplished so much. I think you can afford to take a break and play Pokemon to your heart's content. I briefly just want to tell an anecdote of when I first met you, which was this past November at the audition in San Francisco. I'll try and paint the scene for everybody. Once you check in, they took us to this holding room in the basement of the hall. It's like a 50-foot by 50-foot room, or 60 feet. It's a very large room. And everyone's there. Everyone has their stuff set up along the perimeter, including myself. We all just kind of staked our claim during warm-ups. And all of a sudden, I look over, and Josh Jones walks in. I had never met him, but I immediately knew it was him. I had heard of him through Andres Pichardo, who's a good friend of mine, and Matt Howard, obviously. I'd heard tale of Josh Jones. And just your vibe walking in, I was like, that's Josh Jones. And you walk in, and you set your stuff up in the middle of the room, basically the middle of the room, and you're quietly acknowledging all the people you know, and then you just stood there with your eyes closed and slowly started to do, with sticks, like slowly started doing this really big motion and like tapping the practice pad really slowly. And I was just staring at you just like, whoa, like this guy is on just a completely different plane of existence. And I was fascinated. So First of all, what was that? I mean, you ended up advancing in that audition, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So what is that a ritual you do for all auditions, or is that the mainly this thing, not the
Yeah.
center of the room, but
The middle of the room was a little weird thing because I didn't know how. I knew at some point I'd have to leave and come back to either go to the restroom or something. And
hmm
my mom always told me, "No, you shouldn't leave your stuff by itself. You know, somebody might go and touch it and whatever." And I was like, "Okay, well, what's a way I can make sure no one ever touches it? If I put it in the middle of the room and
right.
then someone goes over to touch it, it'll be like, you know." So
Everyone will
that's where
see.
my mom.
That's great. That's great. I thought it was just like not a intimidation thing, but just like like you're like a confidence thing. Like I am comfortable being in this space. For me, that was my first audition in 8 years, and I was not comfortable. I tried to do all the work to be comfortable, but I was like, man, this is yeah. I remember this feeling. This is not comfortable, and you just look so at ease. And so what was the warm up? Yeah,
Oh,
like the
so
big
that's a molar.
molar. Yeah.
Yes, it's just a molar whip. Essentially, you can do the same kind of thing, which actually my fiance does this before she plays double bass. You
Okay.
just kind of like just let your arms flail,
Yeah.
and I'm hitting the ball. But you want to make sure that the arm is completely loose and just hanging.
Yeah.
And for me, that allows me to access more weight from my arm and my shoulder to make sure I'm not holding any tension up here
hmm
um, or anywhere else around the rotator cuff.
Yeah.
And so I could just approach the drum or the instrument with like all of my arm weight. And it helps with a lot of things. So it just
Nice.
loosens up my arm and it's doing it slow makes I can really be aware of in certain positions what is tense, whether it be like my right foot or my jaw, and
hmm
making sure as I'm going back to the pad that that motion is as efficient as possible,
Right.
with no inhibitions or hesitations.
Right. That's awesome. How did you kind of discover this? Was there a teacher that mentioned this, or did you just like do you have an injury or something or?
Yeah, 2012, I got into the National Repertory Orchestra,
hmm
and I met a percussionist there, Dylan Moffat, and
Okay.
he showed me the whole molar stroke thing. I don't know where he got this from, um, but he was the even before that. I started thinking more about how your body engagement produces different sounds because of Mark Demolakis.
Mm.
Um, and the way Mark taught, he was really bad at explaining how he got sounds. Like
Mm.
he could just do it, but he couldn't really tell you what he was doing. So I'd be trying to figure out, okay, Mark's making this sound, his arm's doing this, but when I do that same thing, it doesn't make the same sound. He says it comes from my back, but what is like? How do I access my back?
Yeah.
So I was always trying to explore and figure out what Mark was talking about.
Yeah.
Or to 2012 with Dylan, I saw Dylan doing the same things, and I was like, "Oh, dude, okay, how? Okay, what are you doing?" Like, luckily, Dylan was able to explain like his process of discovering things.
hmm
Neither of us had all the answers. We were just trying to figure out, okay, what happens when we throw it from here? What happens when I do this with my arm? What happens when I think about this part of my body? And
Mm.
so that whole summer with Dylan, just both of us trying to bounce ideas off of each other and figure things out. Um,
So a lot of experimentation. Just
yeah, it was
okay.
all just experimentation. So he started me. He didn't even teach me this. He was like, this version is like advanced. We should start here and do some Pandero work and
hmm
like, So yeah, he was the first person to really tell me that these ideas were valid
Yeah.
and that I should just keep searching and experimenting with them.
That's amazing. So this 2012. This is 8 years ago that you discovered this, and how have you kind of intentionally developed that? Like you were just saying when you're doing the really slow molar technique, you're trying to see if you have tension in your foot, which is, as far away as you could possibly be, or in your jaw or something like that. So how did you develop that level of body awareness?
So right after 2012, went back to Mark with all of these ideas, and he finally told me that the method of movement that he found out about was called Feldenkrais technique.
Feldenkrais.
I usually describe it as Alexander technique for hippies because Alexander is kind of more like your head goes here, and that is the most efficient place for it to go.
Right. Yeah, I think
Where
the nickname for Alexander technique people who like follow it religiously is Alexandroids. I've heard that term.
Yeah. So like Feldenkrais is more like, oh, what happens when you do this with your neck? Is that comfortable? Okay, try it again thinking about this. It's like, oh, just you're trying to discover your own body and explore like, what happens when you do this from here, or what if you turn your, like, what if, I don't know, just experiment with different movements with different body parts and see what's the most efficient and can it be more efficient?
Yeah.
Or, is this right? Does this feel good? What's another way you can accomplish this motion? You can get up like this, or you can get up like this. Like, you can get up from your torso or from your knees.
That's really interesting. Have you heard of somatics or somatic exercises?
I'm sure I have, but I refresh my
Yeah,
memory.
well, I mean, it's very similar to what you're talking about because I've been doing a deep dive for my own kind of body awareness. Like I told you before we went on that I was having kind of you talked about in Ted saying how you had thoracic outlet syndrome, and I was telling you I was having symptoms of that. There's a thing called somatic exercise, and there's somatic education practitioners, or I think that's the right acronym or whatever. And it is all about that kind of body awareness through subtle movements. So I was doing a video with a guy, and he had us laying on our stomach with our head on our arm and like this. And he's like, okay, now this way. And he's like, okay, now raise your elbow and then slowly lower it down. And he's like, now, like, where was the tension in that? And like, it's all about training where you learn where you hold tension or what muscles you're using for each motion, and kind of retraining your brain that this is a safe motion and it's not a dangerous thing or something for you that causes pain, because your brain gets those learned pathways and it'll send out a pain signal even though there's no pain because it's trying to be overprotective. So that seems very similar to the Feldenkrais that you're talking about. But I wrote that down. I'm going to check that out for sure. That's really interesting. Really quick, let's see who we got. We got Brandon Shantz. He says Spetty. That was my nickname at CMU. He's also a CMU alum. And then he said he tried to get Dylan Moffat drunk on a PYSO tour his freshman year. All right. Thanks for the info. Okay, Brandon, we'll get to that question. Brandon wants me to ask you about your time in the PSO, but I just want to continue on this topic for a little bit more. We'll get to that question for sure. But okay, so you also where were we? Oh, in the body awareness. So you would just do movements, and then over time, over a number of years, you're able to, by doing this motion, tell that you had tension in your foot. And in what way has that kind of shaped your approach to playing or practicing?
Obsession with making sure everything's super efficient, like to the point where, like, it's gotten to the point where I'll play a solo or I'll play an excerpt rhythmically, note perfect, and with the phrasing and everything, but I will know in bar 3, beat 2 on the last 16th note, my shoulder was a little tense on this note. Like, that's how detailed I will be. Like, I can literally go through the whole, maybe not the third round, but the first and second round of Kansas and tell you every single detail that happened in my body for every single.
Like, along with, like, the note you played and
along with the note I played.
How did you develop that level of focus to remember that stuff?
So in school, people always told me to record myself
Mm-hmm.
so I would know what was going on. But what I kept finding every time I did that was that I couldn't focus on what I was doing in the moment. I
Mm-hmm.
was always like, oh, I'll see what it sounds like after I hear the recording. And it like I never could intentionally do anything because I felt like I didn't have to be in the moment. I could just rely on the recording. Um, so me being a very stubborn student,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, screw recording. I'm just going to really pay attention to what I'm doing on every single note.
Wow.
What is this note? Okay. This note to this note. What is that? Okay. So da da. Okay. Da ba. Okay. So da da da. Da 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 da.
Wow.
Okay. So da 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 da. Da, 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 da. So if it feels like that, that's what the phrase is going to sound like. If
Mm-hmm.
all those notes don't fit into that motion or pattern, then I know that one of those notes is going to be out. Then I know that if I'm throwing from the same spot in my hand, all the notes are going to sound consistent and the color won't change. If I notice that I'm throwing from the front of my hand on the note, that note's going to be brighter.
Mm.
So if I feel it, then I know, okay, so that note's too bright. Okay. So after doing that for so long, I just notice everything now because
Wow.
I trained. I really did a lot of Feldenkrais technique studies by myself with YouTube videos, just doing it every single day to the point where I'm just walking down the street wondering, okay, how's my foot on the ground? How's my stance? Am I holding somewhere where I don't need to hold while I'm waiting on the train? Like
Wow. So
it
there's
just
so there's like a period of time where there was kind of like no disconnect for you. You were constantly thinking about body awareness and what was happening.
yeah.
Wow. Did you ever? This might be like a little side note, but did you ever question if you were right or not? Or did you ever kind of get neurotic about it, like, oh, maybe I'm making myself worse, or
Yeah, mainly because it was to the point where even Mark was starting to be a little like, I mean, he probably didn't say anything because he knew it was a good thing for me.
mm-hmm.
Because he was always telling me, questions lead to more questions, ask more questions, never stop searching. And so I took him literally. And to the point where sometimes we get into like a little argument where I'd be like, well, I think it should be from here. And he's like, but that doesn't work with this. And I'm like, but I can make it work if I do this motion. He's like, well, yeah, but then you like, so we started like getting like this about it. But then I go to play it for people and people don't hear these nuances. And I'm just like,
mm.
if I'm doing all this work and no one notices, is it really worth it?
Yeah.
Like if like everybody like people who hear Mark play, it's like insane. It's like when you hear Chris Lamb play, like what, and the only people I hear doing this kind of stuff with their body are those two, Ed Steffen,
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy F,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't remember the other guy's name, Matt Strauss.
Mm-hmm.
Like all to different degrees, but all with that kind of attention to, if you do this, then it makes this sound. So
Right.
like, you know,
That seems like such a way more interesting way to practice. Like, I mean, I'm thinking about my time as a student where it was just kind of like grind, 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 just like time on the instrument and just repetition, very robotic, very technical. And it really, it just killed the joy of it. You know what I mean? So as I'm discovering this body awareness and this mental aspect, it's just so much more rewarding because and it also gets rid of the neurotic tendencies because you're like like I am like I don't need to just be playing hitting the drum constantly to be getting better at it. Like I really need to approach this other side that's going to make me a
yeah.
whole player. So that's really awesome. Oh, I get it, Josh. um, let's see. Brandon Chance has another question. Does that help with muscle memory? Useful for
Oh yeah.
just useful for just audition prep. Can't spend that much time on a reading gig. I'm trying to decipher what he.
Oh, okay. So like, well, that's the cool thing. So what I started noticing too, this like, if I know, okay,
Oh, he's
here's the
talking about
thing.
your slow, like individual note. Okay, yes, got
Yeah,
it. I get it
if
now.
I know that, okay, so if I'm playing like, okay, you take a scale, right?
We're all getting a private lesson with Josh Jones right now.
Okay, so you take a scale, and where's the mallet? Okay, so if you know that C major feels like that,
Mm-hmm.
when you see a C major run, like you automatically know what that run feels like. If you see a C, like I don't know, you see you know exactly where F sharp is.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't necessarily need to if you spend this type of time on the instrument, not just on the piece. If you're spending your time feeling every single note with like a full stroke, slow stroke, and then you feel everything with a more, and then you feel like, do the same thing
Mm-hmm.
with all the stroke types. Then if you're just sight reading something, you see an accent. An accent is a little like 85% forearm, 15% wrist for like a carrot, and then for a normal accent it's like 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
Like it makes sight reading way more accessible and easier to just run with.
It's
So you
kind of more
other
automatic. Like you just recognize a pattern that you've really trained in your brain.
yeah, and then it's like it'll feel like you spent a million years doing, I don't know,
Right.
it's like really, it's like,
Yeah.
so you know how to do that without like practicing.
Right.
So I would spend the majority of my time, I kid you not, I would spend, I don't know, I would just, and people probably hated me in school for doing this. I would take like some rubber mallets on xylophone and just roll on every single note until I got the fullest sound possible with the most relaxed everything.
Mm.
Then I move on to the next note, then the next note, then the next note, and I did that throughout the entire the whole instrument. Then I did it with eighth notes, same thing, 16th notes, triplets,
Mm-hmm.
just getting the fullest sound with the and I do the same thing with tambourine and all the instruments and try to feel the fullest sound with all the stroke types and making sure all of them are efficient in motion and relaxed as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought I was perusing your website today, and I wrote down a quote that I really liked. It says, "Whatever we do is first done within the mind, and then transferred through the body and manifests itself as actions. If we learn how to control our mind, we can address and fix most, if not all, the problems in the body." That was like really deep, and that's just it just seems that's like exactly what you're doing. Like you're really exploring that mind body connection, and it's fascinating because Bruce Lee, yeah. Brandon says he's going to start trying these concepts. Yeah, do it, man. Do it.
You're gonna
Always be growing. Did you meet Brandon when you were at CMU? Is he still around in Pittsburgh or?
I can't remember. I'm really bad with names.
That's okay. It's all right.
But yeah, people want to ask me, like DM me, or like I love talking about this stuff. So
yeah.
Just email or whatever.
Perfect. What he had another question. How much of that is practice versus instinct? I think it just becomes instinct, right?
Yes. So I got this from Bruce Lee. You have to train the body in the correct, like you were saying, you have to retrain the body in the correct way of doing things. And if you do it in this relaxed motion, you're literally learning, like, your arm does this anyway. You don't have to tell it to do this. You just lift from your rotator cuff and it will naturally do that.
Mm-hmm.
You're just discovering all of these natural motions and choreographing them to fit the rhythms, to the point where your time will be completely fixed if you just choreograph this motion in eighth notes, in 16th notes, in triple. Like, you just feel what those different rhythms feel like.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what the question was.
He just said, "Is it how much of it is practice versus instinct?"
Yeah, so you're training your reflexes essentially,
Mm.
so that way when you see an F sharp, you know from here what that F sharp feels like.
Right. And you know where
You
it
see a
is
pseudo,
spatially.
yeah, in spatial studies. There's a
Right.
whole.
Yeah. I'm going to buy that book for sure. I'm very excited.
It's a great. It's like the only book that talks about this stuff. I saw violinists have all these super detailed things about their left hand.
Yeah.
We only have right hand, left hand play in dynamics, buzz roll. Where's the finesse? So, okay,
that's I would love to get into that. I'm sure we'll broach that subject soon. Just really quick, for those of you just tuning in, I'm talking with Josh Jones, who recently won the principal percussion audition at Kansas City Symphony, and he wrote a percussion technique book called Spatial Studies for hitting things, right? Is that? Yes. Something like, there's something, I guess you combine exercises and there's upwards of 5,000 exercises you can create out of this book. So you could probably spend a lifetime working on this book. I'm going to buy it. Highly recommend it. Josh is super interesting. If you have any questions, please ask. At least say hi so we know who you are. We can see the number of people, but we don't know who you are unless you say hi. So please say hi. Is Kimberly Jones your mom?
Oh, hey, Mom.
Okay, your mom's on. She says, hey, dude. Hi, Kimberly. I really enjoyed your cameo in the Ted Atkatz seminar the other day. Oh, I think I'm frozen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Sorry. I had the pinwheel of death going on. Cool. Drummojo.com. Yeah, that's Josh's website. I continue to get this pinwheel of death, and it is frightening me. I hope it doesn't crash my very old computer.
Oh.
Yeah. Whoop. It lost me. Anyway, well, we'll keep talking. It's lost my video for some reason, but Brandon says...
I'm double checking on the live, too.
Oh, okay. It says, what about having to play on wide bar versus skinny bar? No other instrument has to deal with these issues at auditions. That's a good question.
Yeah. So that's the really strange thing about doing this type of work, is when you put. So let's say you play on marimba, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what a marimba bar space feels like. If you literally just think, okay, a xylophone is like, it starts off of like maybe the up last octave going up, and it just gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
Mm-hmm.
If you just let your body adjust by itself, it's just gonna do that. It's scary just letting it do it by itself. Obviously, it helps if you do practice on several different types of instruments, so that you know, okay, when you see this wide bar, it's going to feel like this. When you see this width of the bar, it's going to feel like this. To the point where, like, if you were to, let's say if you were to just hit the, what do you call it? A major second,
mm-hmm.
your body's going to know, okay, this is the amount of difference. If I apply this amount of difference to that's what it's going to feel slightly wide. So if you just think, okay, this is going to feel slightly wider than this, then it just automatically, like, you just have to think it. It's the amount of trust you have to put in your preparation and your amount of instinct, again,
mm-hmm.
is insane.
Right.
So you just have to trust that thinking, this is wider. It's going to be a little wider. Then if it's too wide, your body's just going to adjust. Okay, that's too wide. Diminish it a little bit. If it's too thin, just widen it out a little bit.
And what is kind of the span of time that this is happening? And say you you practiced on some xylophone, whatever xylophone you have. You only have you only have a muster xylophone available, and you're playing that. And then they're going to have an 870 at the audition, a Deegan 870, and you show up. So first excerpt's Porgy. You show up and you look at the instrument and you're like, okay, this is going to be a little bit wider. You tell yourself that, and maybe you start and you might, hit in between the C sharp and the A sharp. You might hit, and you're like, okay, I need to go wider or whatever. So like what is the span of time when you're kind of making this adjustment in real time?
Like 0.04 seconds.
It's more of like just a reaction, just a
yeah, it's really just a reaction.
With an intention beforehand of to play wider, and then you trust your body to react to the situation.
Yeah, and actually, this is something too where you can actually practice this, where you intentionally, when playing playing a scale or whatever, especially so if you're doing, go back, if you're doing, oh wait, this is gonna be a little weird. Okay. Is that right? Okay, are we back? Are we here? Okay.
I can see. Yeah, I can see.
Okay, so let's say I'm going from here to here, right? I can purposefully hit here. I can train myself to purpose. Then I can do middle. Then I can do edge. So that can help me practice. Okay, playing it a little. Well, you can't really do it all that way, but at the very least, you can train. Okay, this is what a little wider feels like. This is what a little thinner feels like. And then the other thing that works is before on the same xylophone, you could be. This works for halls. If you want to practice, let's say the hall is really wet. And you need to be more articulate. Then you will practice all of your scales or all of your technique work with a more upstroke and more from the front of your hand the entire way through. So you know how to play in a wet hall. Then if it's in a really dry hall, you need to be more resonant, play from the middle or the back of your hand the entire way through. So that way if you hear that, oh, this hall is really wet, I need to play more articulate, front of the hand, automatic. Luckily, some more halls are better acoustically, so you don't have to worry about it as much. But that way, you've already practiced that version, just playing scales. Like then you just put that motion into an excerpt. You don't have to practice the motion. You already practice all of those things.
So you kind of treat your practice room or your practice in general is kind of like a laboratory scientist. You just kind of go in and you're like, I'm in the lab today. What's going to happen? What's going to happen when I combine this with this and this much of this? And that's awesome. That is so cool. Brandon, if you have any more questions, keep them coming, man. Those are good questions. So really quick, those of you just tuning in, speaking with Josh Jones, principal percussionist, the Calgary Symphony, most recently won the principal percussion job audition in Kansas City Symphony. Hopefully that starts soon, whenever that does. My wife says, has Josh been to the Calgary Stampede? A Canadian gal wants to know. My wife's from Toronto, so she...
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I have.
That's it. Yeah, I don't even know what that is, but...
It's. Have you seen Tiger King?
Yes. Okay.
Picture that, but a little a little more astute than that. Like that's essentially Stampede.
Okay. Cool.
From my perspective.
Yeah.
That I felt very uncomfortable there.
It's not entertaining enough to keep you in Calgary for much longer. No,
not particularly for that.
So another thing you mentioned before was how, to train your focus, you would do a meditation for the length of that particular orchestra round, and see if you could focus that longer, keep your concentration on each excerpt that you were about to play. So is that what you do before, immediately before the round, in the warm-up room? That's when you do that meditation, or is that part of your training leading up to the audition?
That's part of my practice daily.
Okay.
To the point where, because, someone told me this. Who told me this? Literally, practice is a meditation. Oh, Rich Stitzel. We were talking about this because whenever you do something in a repetition and it's that automatic in motion, you just kind of go into a trance. Like you just kind of get lost in the motion. And I started doing that more and more because like playing paradiddles is fun. Like I could do this all day. You know, playing single strokes, once you get into a groove, it's just, you could do that all day. And so I started exploiting that sensation of just letting myself like go and just kind of feeling what's going on and not really forcing anything, just thinking, okay, this is going to be a little louder, da 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 da, you know, just kind of doing that. And so I was thinking with how can I apply that to a stressful situation? What are ways that I can distract myself from things that can make me anxious? And so I was thinking, okay, what types of things put me in that zone of just feeling the music and playing? For certain excerpts, it was like, I think about time, so I could think of, you know, something like that. Other things I'm thinking like, you know, or you think about Prokofiev 5, there's no way you can like,
yeah,
you know, that's, and other things I just have to be like, okay, you're going to play this excerpt. It's going to be great. For some reason, that keeps me in. If I think about like, I don't know, what's like someone announcing golf.
Yeah.
If I picture an announcer saying, "That stroke was excellent," we go on to the next part.
He really got all four of those strokes.
Yeah, so I tried to find things that'll keep my attention for certain pieces, and I always have a backup plan. Like if I start getting tired of thinking about time, I'll think about sound. Like this sounds great.
Yeah.
This is a dark sound, light, dark, light. You know.
Wow.
And eventually, I streamlined it to, okay, if I'm doing something while I'm playing, I can't think about what I'm doing. I have to like focus on the other thing. So I decided to just sing everything that I play. And if I'm singing while I'm playing, there's no extra brain power for thoughts to come in. So if I'm thinking da 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 da. You know?
Wow. For those of you who don't know, that's a snare drum excerpt. I know it sounds like a nice like melodic thing he just sang, but that's for snare drum. And I'm sure that I want to get to this, that emotional quality comes across in the way you just sang it and phrased it with your voice. So how do you sing it vocally while you're playing? What is the first time, how do I ask this question? When you get into the audition room, is that your first time just singing in your head, or do you just kind of, you oscillate back and forth in the practice room? So I just hit my mic.
Yeah, I go back and forth. And I feel like, well, this is a Ted Atkatz thing, actually. And I didn't know until I saw one of his old videos online. It's like you sing it in your head and you like visualize yourself playing at the same time. And if you can hear every single note, then you probably know the piece. You know, like if you hear, you know, if you can sing all of those, then it works really well for solos, especially when you do, like, you can find some serious, like, interesting patterns and phrases and flows between the notes and the hand. Like, it's cool.
Yeah,
so,
I feel like that would also really help your muscle memory if you have that extra kind of quality. I mean, and to piggyback, I'll get to your guys' questions in a second. To piggyback on that, what I'm getting when you're demonstrating all these excerpts is a really, really strong emotional character. So if you could kind of talk about that, the importance of that in your playing.
Yeah, it's music is a human thing. It can't be just robotic. And this is something all my teachers will tell anyone this when I was like pre-2016. I was getting better at 2016. But before 2016, I was like technician. And then for the fun pieces, I was like, yeah, whoa, you know. But for all the hard stuff, it was like,
Right.
I would take some liberties like something like that, but it wasn't like I wasn't emoting as freely as I was for like a jazz thing or like me just playing in church, just going to town, you know. So I just taught a student right before this talking about this. Um, if I have an intention for every single note as far as what the character of the piece is. Let's say you're learning Shostakovich. What's the vibe of the piece? Is it the angsty one or the sarcastic one?
Mm-hmm.
What does angst feel like? What is that emotion? How does your body feel when it's angsty? Like, okay, from that feeling, throw the stick. You're gonna throw it different. It's the same thing with Bruce Lee. You're gonna throw it different if you punch somebody just for I'm gonna punch this guy. But if this guy just took all your money, stomped all on your like most prized possessions and broke your car, that's going to give you a certain feeling. So you're not just going to be, I'm going to punch this guy because he broke my car. No, like, I'm going to punch this guy because he broke my car.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That the intention behind all of the notes, if you do that during the practice, you don't have to learn the notes, then put phrasing in. Like,
right. Yeah.
It's already there.
Yeah. I remember you saying when you were talking about learning Bach and you were saying like, yeah, it doesn't sound the same every day. Like one day I wake up and it feels this way. And so I'm like, oh, that's an interesting phrase. Or the next day I might wake up and it feels this way. Can you kind of elaborate more on that, your approach to like a solo? I feel like in an audition, I've been on the other side of an audition committee, and especially with percussionists, they come in and they play a solo and they approach it like a technical excerpt, and it's so boring. And so I just want to hear your approach to a solo for an audition.
So I kind of, okay, so I have a little bit of a, so this is, okay, so this is a hard concept because the only reason I approach it this way is because of something Keith Aleo told me now. After, so I was dealing with thoracic outlet syndrome, and I took the New World audition while I was at Detroit. I feel like it was at Detroit, pretty sure. And I was really worried because I was really numb in my left hand. I couldn't do all the super finesse and everything, and I was like, oh, it's New World. I have to play super perfect or else they're just going to cut me, so I need to make sure I just do it straight. And I did it that way. And Keith called me that night and was like, Josh, what the was that? I can't believe I have never seen you play that way ever. I never want to see you play that way ever again. What the are you thinking? Like, well, I was dealing with this, and like he was like, well, play that way. Like, if you're dealing with something, just play. Don't play without feeling. Like, play the way you feel. Like, don't ever do that.
Wow.
So
a good lesson to learn.
Right? I promised him never to approach music in that way ever again because, like, there's no point after that. And it was that year I was like, I started noticing myself going down the kind of robotic path of like, well, this is the way the music goes, and like this is the way it sounds when it's perfect. So this is what will get me into an orchestra, I guess, because they're looking for clarity and the character of the piece. So that's all here. But I wasn't there. Like all the stuff they want is there, but the person isn't.
Right. The soul of the music was not there.
Yeah, and I started noticing that I couldn't do that with the music because I couldn't do that in my personal life. So I had to like do a lot of therapy. I'm still seeing a therapist for stuff.
It's very healthy.
Yeah, and it's like I have to learn how to be vulnerable in my daily life in order for me to be vulnerable or feel comfortable being vulnerable in the most stressful thing of your life, probably.
Yeah.
And I started studying this acting technique. I was looking up, I don't even know how I discovered this guy. I was looking up, because I figured, okay, who's really good at expressing themselves? Okay, Bruce Lee, but that's more about the physicality. You know, he can punch anybody and you can't really see what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay, what else? Oh, acting. Actors have to do this, right? Okay, so I looked up acting classes, and this one guy from LA, Anthony Mindell, talks about this. Like every class of his is a therapy session. He's like, what does the character feel like right now? Like, oh, I think he wants to do this. Then go do that. Like, you know, why didn't you go to her and hug her? Well, I don't know. It's like, well, is that what you wanted to do? Like, well, yeah. I was like, why didn't you go do it? Because I don't want to hug my girlfriend. It's like, oh my god. And so, like, now I literally, especially having gone through what I went through with the whole cancer thing, I literally can't hold anything back anymore. It's like, I'm just so happy to be alive.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I will never approach hitting a drum the same. Like, every motion of mine is like, I'm happy to be alive.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm feeling sad that day, I'm sad. Like, you know, not saying that it's all fixed. Like, I still have, like, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot
of course. Work. Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult. Can you kind of go a little deeper into one, overcoming the thoracic outlet syndrome, but also, you know, recovering from cancer and playing again after that, and your outlook, all that. I guess now you're saying you can't hold anything back. You're just happy to be alive. What was it that way initially, like right when you were had your surgery or were finished with your treatments? You know, did you have a positive outlook, or did it take time to develop that?
Yeah, with the thoracic outlet syndrome, what I ended up finding out was, one, like, there was obviously some tension somewhere to cause that closing of the muscle around the nerve. So that was one thing. But the other thing I found out was the way I was playing, I was literally inhibiting my own instincts. Like, I forced my body to do a certain thing because that's the way I thought the panel wanted it to sound. Instead of just, because what I found too was it never was a problem on Bach. Bach was completely fine. I never had issues with my arms or anything else. And then as soon as I went to excerpts, that's when it started kicking in. So the more I just let myself just go, the less pain or numbness I felt.
So like you were just kind of holding tension, and you figured out how to not hold tension anymore.
Yeah. Then fast forward to the surgery. Two things. One of the things was, if the cancer. So I had a cancerous tumor. It was like, how big was it? It wasn't this big, but let's say it was like minus my hand. It was like that big.
Wow.
Right here.
Wow.
Like, I was like, no, actually no. It's like 7 inch. Actually no, it probably was this big. It's like 7.5 inches.
Wow. That's big.
Like,
it's significant.
So they had to cut from, where is it? From here all the way down to here.
Wow.
Get it out.
Whoa.
And they didn't know if it was just connected to a vein in my leg or if it was also attached to things around it, because it was touching a lot of stuff. So they needed to make sure it wasn't like seeping into other organs, like my bladder, my intestines, and other muscles that were around. So if they had to cut another thing out, I would have had to have either a colostomy bag or the other one that was for your bladder. There's one for your colon and one for your... So I was either going to come out with no bags or one bag or two bags attached to me, which means I probably would have to figure out how to play cymbals somewhere else.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Also with muscles involved, I was like, well...
So everything's kind of unknown, and I imagine that's incredibly scary at that point.
Yeah. So fast forward to the surgery. Come to find out, as soon as I get out of the surgery, what's the first thing I feel? Numbness in my left arm.
Oh,
I'm like,
no.
what? No. And they're like, oh, that's probably from the epidural that we had to put in your spine.
Oh.
Well, it'll go away. And I was like,
Yeah. Oh my
well,
gosh.
so, um, so they had to also they had to cut out that vein in the leg, so I had to kind of relearn how to walk
Oh
and
man.
figure out feel my leg and figure out like, okay, what's it feel like now? What does it feel like to put weight on it? Painful as all hell.
Mm-hmm.
And also had to navigate, like, luckily they didn't have to cut any muscle, but also navigating. I had to retrain that it's okay to do this motion,
Yeah.
because even now, like, going back to doing ab work, like, I still have to tell my body it's okay to move this way now.
Yeah.
Like it's
Man.
weird, man.
That's good. So that surgery was in May of last year, or June.
January 17th of 2019.
Okay, and then all of a sudden, 10 months later, you're in San Francisco auditioning, and you advance. Did you take an audition before that?
I took the Montreal audition, got to the finals.
Wow. Man, I mean that's incredible. Like that's just really a testament to your willpower and all the mental work you've done.
Yeah, I was like, I want to, like, it was more for me because I was like, my left hand, like, I need to get because to this day, like, I was like, I don't feel the same. My left side does not feel the same, I mean, like, as it did. I want to feel that nuance that I had, like, and like to the point where, like, it was maddening because people would be like, you sound great, and I'm just like, but it could be so much better.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I know what it could be, and y'all think, okay,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So,
man, that's a really incredible story. Before we wrap up, I just want to try and get to all these questions. Matt Richards, he says, mental prep process for auditions. I think we covered most of that. But please, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I just put on my website, if you go to the studio tab and click that, on the bottom it'll say audition template. I go through my whole process for the last 4 auditions I went to the finals for.
Wow, and that's a free resource? Wow, completely. That's amazing.
Completely.
So, yeah, so that's www.drummojo.com, drummojo.com. You can find that, Matt. Brandon Chance, congrats on the audition. I've only heard great things out of PSO. Much more cerebral player than me, but great advice. Yeah. Let's see what else.
I'm pretty
yeah. Matt Howard, what up, dudes? Hey, Matt, what's up? Thanks for checking in.
I can't wait to meet you in person because I really like you.
Yeah, dude, come out to California. Take a little vacation. When this is all lifted, come hang out. You got many places to stay. You're welcome here. I'm sure Matt would welcome you to his home as well. Robert Shields, very comparable to how you would teach acting. That's my friend Rob Shields, who's an actor and director. So yeah, he's about your kind of the mental approach, the emotional quality. Brandon Chance again. It sounds like his concepts are all geared towards solo audition playing. Does he treat the live orchestra setting differently?
Nope. If anything, I'm even more wild for performances. Like it's really funny to watch because especially here, one of my colleagues, Malcolm Lim, we're just kind of like jamming out. Like we're just like, oh, here comes that one part. Wasn't that cool? Like, yeah. So I try to bring that joy of, like, I love Prokofiev 5. I love Peter and the Wolf. Like, da 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 da.
Yeah.
Da, da, you know, like, and actually for the Kansas audition, which is hilarious, I just was like, you know, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this all the way.
Yeah.
To the point where I'm just like, Robin Williams. If you ever see The Birdcage, there's a scene where Robin Williams describing how he wants an actor to stand, because the actor's just supposed to stand there and let the other actor do whatever. And he's like, do I just stand here like a statue? And Robin's like, no, you gotta do Fosse, you gotta do Martha Graham and Twyla, Michael Kidd, Madonna. Keep it all inside. So inside I'm just like, whatever the
Yeah.
excerpts are, and then after I'm done playing, I'm just like literally like this in front of the proctor. I'm just like,
Right. You're like, I killed that. Yeah.
yeah, like
Nice.
I literally I'm like that. So I try to the 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 more confident I am that this is the way the panel wants to hear it and hear my emotion,
Hmm.
the more I feel the freedom to just do it and not care what the proctor thinks. Like they
Right.
think I'm a little weird, that's fine, as long as the music sounds good.
Right. So in the going more into Brandon's question, so in the orchestral setting, are you then kind of transferring that emotional quality to what you're hearing around you, or do you still stick to your own individual?
Yeah, so I'm just letting it. I'm doing what I would normally do. I let the music and what is happening influence my response. So I'm not just like, no, I like it this way.
Right.
Like if the vibe, I don't know, if the flutist is playing with a darker tone, then I have to play with a darker tone.
Mhm.
If the tempo's shifting a little bit, then I have to shift with the tempo. And especially in time pieces where I have to like do like that kind of stuff with a wood block. There was a concert where I had to play tempo block clave,
Mhm.
play clave, and I'm listening to how people are playing their eighth notes. Are they playing them with a lot of tenuto, which means it's going to slow down a little bit? Are they playing it brighter, which means it's going to pick up tempo a little bit?
Mhm.
Like I'm just completely trying to digest what's going on and then react.
Yeah.
So if anything, I feel like performances are more of a reaction, and auditions are more of a improvisation. Ooh.
Mm. Nice. Did you just discover that? Did you just have
Yeah,
that?
because
Nice.
yeah, if anything, a performance can be an improvisation, but you're reacting to what the other person's doing, so you can't like, I don't know. Yeah, that's interesting.
That's
I'll have
very
to think
cool.
about it. Definitely, a performance is all reaction.
Right.
Um,
Awesome. Matt says, "Come on out." Uh, Brandon Arve says, "Josh!"
oh,
Exclamation! Exclamation! I'm there. I'm gone again. With there we go. Wait, what is happening? I'm sorry. I'm having technical difficulties. I'm just gonna keep it on you for now. Um,
okay.
Brandon says, "Nice. Sorry for hijacking the feed. This guy is very interesting." Yeah. No, Brandon, it's totally cool, man. Those are great questions, and it was wonderful. Um, yeah, so I think we'll call it there. That was really wonderful. I gotta say, your joy for playing is contagious and infectious, and I hope everyone got that through the screen. It certainly affected me in that way. Really enjoyed talking with you. I hope this is the first of many conversations that we have. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. I'll check back with you in a second.
Yeah.
But thank you all for being here today. That's a wrap for episode 6. I really appreciate all the feedback I've been getting. It's been very positive and really encouraging, and I definitely plan on doing this every Friday for the foreseeable future. And when this quarantine gets lifted, probably change the date because hopefully every Friday I'll be busy performing. So stay tuned for that. But until then, thank you so much. I'll be back next Friday, 5 p.m. with another great guest. Hope you enjoyed this interview. If you did, please please like, comment, share. Even if you comment a month from now after watching this, I will get back to you. Until next week, take care and bye for now. If I can get my